Hey, everybody, real quick, before we get rolling with the show, you may recall that earlier this season, we offered 10 youth associations a 45-day free trial on the coaches site. All you had to do was register a minimum of 20 coaches, and we would provide a usage report at the end of the 45-day trial so you could evaluate how much value it was bringing to your association. It was super successful, so we figured let's do it again to close out the year. So we are looking for 10 youth associations. Again, all that's required is that you register a minimum of 20 coaches, but you could also register all your coaches. And again, there's no financial commitment. There's no catches. It's just free features, free content. You can take the coach site for a test drive, and we're pretty confident you're going to be really happy with it. So if this is of interest, hustle, shoot us an email at info@thecoachesite.com. Put 45-day free trial in the subject line, and one of our customer service reps will be in touch with you ASAP. And now, on to the show. So, if you had to pick your all-time 3-on-3 starting lineup based on players that you played with or against, you're the coach, you can't get on the ice. What does that lineup look like?
I think Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, and Adam Oates. Those, and I'd eliminate myself.
That's fair. Who's in net?
I got to go with Patrick in net.
Yeah, that's a good fallback plan. What as you've become acclimated to 3-on-3 hockey, I think we can all assume that speed and skill are certainly benefits. Is there any other underlying skills that are advantageous?
Conditioning is a big key. We only have 6 players, so if you get extended, sometimes you haven't recovered fully by the time your guy is changing, and you got to go back out there. So it's really important to kind of be disciplined and not get extended too much, because then it's a tough recovery, and it's just a constant flow. So make sure that we try to keep our shifts short, and I try to tell my guys that you don't want to be resting on the ice, but when you're playing defense, I lack of chasing and just being maybe let them kind of come to us and hold that triangle kind of in the middle of the ice, where if we do get extended, that's where we could maybe get a little blow or catch your breath. So it's very challenging how to play that. Like I'm just trying to figure out systematic how we should be approaching everything.
Well, you know what? It's so interesting. So, like, just in anticipation of this conversation, I've just paid a lot more attention to overtime hockey in the NHL, and I would say that in large part, the NHL has become a bit of a copycat league with a lot of the systems at play. But OT seems to be one of those areas where there's a real discrepancy on maybe how teams approach that. And you mentioned the defensive side. Do you, when you put your lineup together, do you have a designated defenseman on the ice, or are those interchangeable parts?
We try to have 1D with on the ice at all times. Usually I do have a couple of defensemen, and then the 4 forwards and a goalie. But still, you're not really playing defense. You are kind of the guy back there, and probably the more responsible guy is the defenseman. But still, you find yourself sometimes, in the offensive zone and trying to, come back and back check, and you find yourself out of position. Things happen so quick, and our rules are a touch different, where
Yeah.
if we'd have full ice where we'd be able to regroup all the way back to our end, but we're not allowed to do that. We could only come halfway to the red line and regroup there, because if we cross the red line, we lose possession of the puck. So it really shortened things up for really to be creative and kind of regroup and then come with speed. So everything happens pretty quick, and there's no whistles. So goalie makes a save, you got to clear the. It's like a 3-point line, and if you've been watching basketball, you got to kind of get it out of that area, let them move the puck and get started again. So it's a constant slow. There's only a face-off to start both periods. We play 2 8-minute periods, and it's a constant flow, and it's tough. It's a tough format, but it's exciting. It's just pretty much end-to-end action like you watch in overtime for the in the NHL. Pretty exciting.
Yeah. So like how do you what's the strategy for changing lines if you can't bring it back? That's such an interesting wrinkle.
Just try to be smart with your changes. I mean, a lot of times teams will change kind of at the same time, and you're able to have possession of the puck after a save, and a lot of times they give you a lot of room and space. So at that point in time, two guys could change, or you change one at a time, making sure that you're not changing. Coming back or a really
Yeah.
bad change while they have really good possession of the puck. So you just got to be smart about that. It's pretty simple. That's not really a problem that often. And
Yeah.
there is, you know, we talk about, we haven't done it yet, but we talk about having a change where we have one guy coming in and one side of the bench, and then having the guy changing at the other end of the bench, where maybe as that happens, it's kind of a set play, and as the puck, we have possession, good possession, control of it, and then that change happens, and then that guy just jumps out of the kind of a long pass along our blue line, our offensive blue line. So still trying to come up with little plays that to try to take advantage of certain things.
Well, you know what? So I go watch the highlights from last year's season, for example, and I mean, there's as you said, like it's super fast pace, lots of offense, and obviously the highlight reel goals make it onto the promotional reel, but overall in 3-on-3 hockey, are all the goals kind of in that highlight reel variety, or is there still space for putting the puck on net and finding rebounds and grinding them out?
Yeah, there's quite a few goals that are scored that way as well. And but the highlight goals are they happen quite often just because a lot of times it could be an outman situation or a breakaway. You see a lot more of that in the 3-on-3 concept. So yeah, the highlight reel is loaded with some pretty neat goals. And these kids are so skilled that you know, like Swaggy Pete on our team. I mean,
Yeah, P
looks
Land,
like
yeah.
he's got Velcro on his stick and the puck on some of the stuff he does, and a lot of guys are really gifted in that way. How I can't even curl that puck on my stick. I remember in practice back in the day when the first time I've ever seen that done. I mean, I might have been able to do that 3 times in my life after trying probably 1,000 times to get that on my stick to the way they just kind of curl their wrists and there they go. And then it's like a lacrosse stick. It's really amazing.
It is. Pete's been on the show before. I mean, man, he's just it's incredible what he's been able to not just the skills he can do, but how he can execute it in a game environment. Um, I was thinking that on one hand, given sort of the 3-on-3 nature, that it would be all offense and all gas no break. But then you read that. I mean, there's real money at stake in these games, in these tournaments. So I would imagine there has to be some level, I guess, of constraints or managing risk. Like how have you learned to balance that with your team?
Really try to talk to them about being responsible, and yes, obviously it's we're going and we're trying to push the pace, and but recognize situations, and like I mentioned earlier about in our defensive zone, don't get chasing. You jump. Just try to tell these guys, you jump when you think you got more than a 50-50 chance to really get possession, or really to challenge him from preventing him from making a really good play, or and then again, that little triangle that I try to talk to the guys about holding pretty tight has worked okay, has worked for us, I think, when we do it. But all it takes is one guy to be impatient or to chase and to get beat, and then it's an outman situation. And so it's really trying to combine both. Where want you to be responsible. Try to think about, let's have a thought about how we want to play, defense when we don't have possession, and to make good decisions. So, but one little breakdown, and it's done. You're chasing and outman situations, and things happen pretty quick. So, I as a coach, I think I've just got to get better and to communicate better and to try to get these guys to understand and to come up with my system. When you start the season, you're kind of like rusty and you're not sure, and you kind of takes you a little bit to kind of get back into it and thinking compared to the last game that you're coaching after having 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and kind of knowing how your team is and I'm going to have a totally different team next year. So not knowing my players, and then having them know me or talk about how we want to play. So it's pretty interesting.
Is there a goalie psychologist on staff at these tournaments? I can just imagine that's it takes a brave face to step into that
Yeah,
environment.
like an all-star game, right?
Yeah, totally.
Back in the day. No, I haven't seen one of those on the payroll yet.
Yeah,
Maybe that's something to talk about with our commish there.
yeah.
But it's the goalies play a huge role. They're challenged. They come up with some amazing saves. And if you could have a goalie that handles a puck,
I was
well,
gonna
that's
say,
that's a
yeah.
big advantage. Big advantage.
Well, a couple things. Like, I mean, you obviously had your own journey coming up through minor hockey. You've raised two boys, both of whom played professionally, and you mentioned that the skill level. I mean, I think the fact that we've got a Hall of Famer talking about the skill level of today's players is noteworthy. Any observations on just how young players are develop today, and maybe what you're seeing that's positive about that versus perhaps when you were coming up?
I think there's a lot of more individual attention that young players now or parents, uh, more of a specialized. Sometimes you're working one on one with somebody on all kinds of different skills. I think kids are working on their skating a lot more now. Their edges, how they skate now is different, I think, than how we were taught. Not that we skate any different, but how they work their edges and and like everything, right? Um, when I broke in 1979 compared to when I retired in 2001, how the training and how I trained a lot different, how I ate a lot different, um, and all those things. And the game, was changing somewhat. And since I've been retired, it's 25 years now, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's amazing where the game has gone. And for me, I was really happy to touch, 79 and old time hockey kind of thing and how things were played there. And then the progression when I retired 2001, and now where it's at now, it's just, it's crazy where it's gone. But I really enjoy everything, all the changes, and the improvements and the quality and play, of the teams and the individuals. I love watching the game still. Still watch a lot of hockey, and every morning I'm tuning in to see
yeah.
all the recaps of all the games, and I'm keeping up pretty good with it. But I just think it's amazing how the talent and yeah, we had some European players coming in in the early '80s and all that stuff, but where the game has gone over the years with really being a world league all over the place, all over the world now, you're getting some players and not only in Europe but here in the U.S. where you have kids coming out now for quite a while out of Texas, California, Arizona, all these places, and and even a place like St. Louis where uh, maybe in the 70s or 80s, it took a little time to develop their minor hockey out there. You have kids coming out of everywhere, so just to make it with the pure numbers that are playing the game now, it's pretty impressive.
Well, and I anticipate that where you're sitting right now, Florida, that's going to be one of the
Florida's
next
another place,
hotspots that we're going to
exactly.
see. Yeah,
Yeah, the
it's
kids
really
coming out of
evolving.
Florida here. I'm right here in Estero where they got amazing programs at Hertz where the Everblades play. A lot of the a lot of people running these programs have played pro hockey. A lot of people settle here. Their kids have grown up here, playing in the NHL or the American League. I know quite a few kids that are from here now, being here now for about 6 years or so, getting to know some of the people involved.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go back. You mentioned the playing defense and not just maybe managing your energy levels and knowing when to push and maybe when to sit back. I was looking up. I believe that in your last year, your 21st year in the National Hockey League, you led the league in ice time per game. Correct?
Yeah, 27
And
plus, I think.
yeah, and which is remarkable. But I also look at that and I'm like, if you play today, you'd be watching all 27 minutes of those shifts over again, and you would visually probably say, I should have pushed there, or I could have, I should have sat back there. But in the era that you played, so much of that would have been, I'm assuming, just in reflection or sort of gut feel on how to play the game. Like, how did you learn to manage your ice time and have fresh legs over the duration of a game?
They weren't always fresh. They were at the end. They were kind of
Yeah,
old.
a few ice
Uh,
bags out there.
yeah, but as the years went on, I took different routes to things and took a lot less chances. Um, could always skate pretty well, but as you age, you're losing the step, a little touch every year of those quick twitch, moves that you might have had at some point. But I was always one that I had to touch the ice all the time. Coaches every year would say they'd be cutting my minutes. Never happened. Um, I just love being out there and to compete, and I wanted to be a big part of whatever was going on. So I my conditioning really helped me. I could recover in no time. I was one that would get off and recover in seconds, like 30, 45 seconds. I was ready to go again. And a little tougher in Denver, I've got to admit. You get extended
Yeah.
there, it actually hurts. It physically hurts if you get extended and Mile High. Even I mean, you have an advantage if you play there all the time and practice there, but still, in the course of the game, you get extended in that second period where it's a tough change and you can't get off. You get back to the bench and you're in pain trying to catch your breath. So at those times, it was a little tougher to recover. But overall, I really had a gift in terms of how I could bounce back and I could play some minutes. And sometimes it might have been maybe too much. Maybe took away maybe a little bit from my game, but you know, in today's game, there's no way I think you average 27 minutes plus played. Back then, the pace wasn't what it is today. Not that the pace wasn't fast or quick, but the overall pace, I think, of a game, of course, of a 60 minutes, I think, is a lot quicker now than it was then.
When you look at the game today, and I mean, just out here in Vancouver, we've had the benefit, past several years watching Quinn Hughes play, and if you were to, depending on when you turn the TV on, it might not be obvious to you that Quinn Hughes is a defenseman. He covers a lot of ground out there. Do you ever find yourself, perhaps, wondering like what your career looks like if you were playing in today's landscape?
Yeah, I think all players that
Yeah,
were top players back then would be top players today.
yeah,
But I marvel in watching a guy like Quint Hughes or Makar, some of these D that are just amazing how they get around the ice and and how they handle the puck and just their exit passes and everything. Their overall game is just spectacular and it's so exciting to watch. So yeah, those two guys there are crazy. They're a one man breakout if you want. They'll hit the stretch pass. You know they'll recover from an offensive play because of their skating is so good. How they could just recover and get back and catch people or how they could close on you. Pretty exciting players right there.
Yeah, they are. And it's funny. So I was going back. Your last year of junior, you had 93 points in 63 games. So when I read that immediately, I'm like, Ray must have led the queue in scoring that year, or been damn near close. You were 26 in the league in scoring. In fact, you were third in defenseman scoring, which is remarkable. And you go back and look at, you almost just do the math at how much offense was being created. I mean, you're still playing that within a 60-minute game. Can you speak to maybe just the brand of hockey that you played in junior? Because gosh, it almost seems like it was closer to a 3-on-3 version of hockey than the 5-on-5.
Well, the Q is always known for their for the high scoring and guys putting up numbers and all that. But regardless of how many points I put up, but regardless if it was junior or the pros, um, I was like so responsible defensively. Like it really my defense came first, and
Really?
where I got my offense was supporting the attack. Not that I never ever led a rush or something like that, but it was my passing, me anticipating and following supporting the attack was one of my biggest strengths. Is knowing when there was time to follow close or come in late or to read plays or, a very good passer, really good shot, could skate really well. Yeah, I scored some nice highlight goals where, you know, um, a few rushes and stuff like this. And my first year, I put up 65 points, 17 goals. And then you're asked, oh my God, Bobby Orr put up these numbers. Oh, I'm like, no, you could stop right there. You're not going to see Ray Bourque turn into Bobby Orr. And I always
Yeah.
said if I could be half the player, I think I would have an amazing career. So I played my game. I grew up in Montreal. My kind of three guys that I watched really closely was Serge Savard, Larry Robinson, and Guy Lapointe. They were called the Big Three in Montreal. I was pretty spoiled as a kid growing up there, and I just remember watching them win cups and go to parades when as a kid. Missing school with my buddies, and we end up going to the parades and watching the Canadians and their celebrations and all that stuff. So I was pretty lucky growing in a place that. Uh, our home team really excelled all the time.
Weird. I think so often, I mean, I think probably natural in a lot of cases where young players gravitate towards the offensive side of the game. What do you think pulled you in to not only playing defense, but clearly taking a lot of pride in playing a sound defensive game? And were there any coaches that maybe guided you along that path?
Well, growing up, I would play defense one year, then I would play forward the next year. I played defense, I'd play forward. It seemed like wherever the team needed me to play, I would play. So that allowed me to kind of feel and kind of grow up playing both sides of the puck. I think that ended up helping me offensively and knowing that when you find yourself in certain positions or certain places in the offensive zone, you kind of feel comfortable. Um, and from the age of 13 years old, that's when I strictly start to play defense, and that's when I really start to separate myself from my peers, where I really kind of took off. And I was 14 years old, just turned 15, and I was playing first year midget, and I got called up to our junior B team in my hometown called Saint Laurent Jets, and just crapping my pants. Thinking
Yeah.
that they want me to go play with 16 to 20-year-old guys, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And never finding my way back to the midget team, finishing the second half of the season with that junior B team and doing really well. And that's the year I got drafted to Three Rivers the following year, and then playing 3 years in the Q. So um, when I strictly started to play D, that's when I really kind of took off and separated myself, and just took a lot of pride in an all-around game where, moving the puck, being part of the offense, making sure you're solid defensively, being physical. Um, the physicality in my game was one that I really took a lot of pride into. A lot of times it was subtle, but other times it was not so subtle, and to know when to use that kind of stuff. I was 6 foot. Played between 205 pounds to 220 when I retired. So there's kind of a solid body there that kind of thinking that I was built to kind of play this game pretty healthy for the most part throughout my whole career. And at the age of 65 now, I really have no issues. It's shocking to me
No
how I
kidding.
feel. Yeah. And I still get out on the ice and skate with a whole bunch of my buddies that are in their 60s as well. We're able to skate 3 times a week here in Florida. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You had a chance to play for some notable coaches. How did you know when a coach trusted you?
My playing time was always up there. I know they trusted me. There was no reason why they shouldn't. Um, I was I led by example. For me, I showed up in Boston and I was a quiet kid. Peter McNabb always said that I didn't speak English when I got to Boston. It was not true. My parents are from the Maritimes. I grew up speaking both languages perfectly, and it's just I didn't speak much. I just watched and listened, and I had a guy like Brad Park take me under his wing, and really I was like a sponge. Brad could talk hockey and had so much knowledge that really helped me a lot. But my my safe heaven was the ice. Once I stepped on the ice, that's where I felt the most comfortable out of anything I could think of. And I just let my play and my work ethic and my preparation do most of my talking. And it was a big adjustment for me. I led by example. It was easy to do that. But then, you're asked to be captain of the Boston Bruins, and
You were young,
that's
25 when you got the seat?
yeah, yeah. I was 25, but I really I didn't know if I was ready for it in terms of, not worried about playing and leading by example and doing my job and doing everything I needed to do. But being a captain when things are going great is easy. It's when things aren't going so well that to have the skill to bring people together. And being a 25-year-old, I was like, I had Wayne Cashman as the captain, then Terry O'Reilly, that in my books was the ultimate Bruin. I never played with somebody that worked so hard and was the toughest guy I've ever played with. Um, and I really looked up to Taz. And then, next guy in line I thought was Rick Middleton. Rick was an amazing player and the oldest in terms of, I thought who should be next. And I talked about that, how I really, had a lot of respect for Rick. And they came back to me asking if I'd be willing to share the captaincy with Rick I'd wear it on the road, he'd wear it at home, then we'd switch halfway through the season. And that really allowed me to kind of fall into that next step of the leadership position, working with Rick. And the captain doesn't do it by himself. It's a core of guys that really take up that leadership role on a team. But still, you're the ring leader. And so that was kind of cool. That I had a couple of years with Rick, and then had the C for 14 years with the Bruins.
Well, no kidding. And I sense that, gosh, I mean, 25 seems so young relative to any other sort of paths you might take in life. Although, I mean, I'm sure we could count a handful of young players in the National Hockey League that are probably going to get the C. I mean, Rick or Macklin Celebrini comes to mind in San Jose, where I imagine he's got the C, not pretty close to 20. What advice would you give to any leader in an NHL locker room, but specifically younger players, and just maybe how they navigate that?
For me, it's like, I mean, the biggest part is when your best players are your best people,
Yeah.
and they do things the right way. Um, when your leader is handling things like that every day, and when I say lead by example, it's respecting the game, respecting your teammates, the coaches, respecting what you need to do in terms of your preparation. And when you're the leader and you're doing those things, the young kids are watching, everybody's watching, and everybody has to fall in place. And, and that's how I learned. And I've always been that kind of person. But I just remember watching the older Bruins when I got there, and you learn what a Bruin is all about, and the work ethic, and having each other's backs, and doing the right thing, and treating people the right way, and not asking anybody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And I always won. It wasn't never about me or about a certain person or player. It was always about us. It was always about the team. Team came first. And I always included myself in anything I was talking about with when it comes to leadership and talking to the club.
How much of that mindset, Ray, is just rooted, maybe not so much in hockey, but just your home life, your folks, and just in how you grew up?
I was always a humble guy. I talk now and I'm like, be an animal, but be humble off the ice. And I've always been that person. Always respected the game, and respected people that were around the game, and tried to treat people the way I'd like to be treated. My dad always kind of, that was his big thing, is treat people the way you want to be treated, and you'll be fine, and you'll have some good friends, and you'll be a good teammate.
When being the captain for 14 years in Boston, when you go to Colorado, was that is that a challenge? I mean, because not only did they obviously have Joe Sakic there wearing the C, but I mean they had a lot of veteran leaderships, a lot of experienced players. Was that a challenge, or was there maybe some relief in that you didn't have to be the lead dog anymore?
Well, when I left Boston, I left. There was a reason why I left, and it was not good at all.
Yeah.
Team, just you're so used to a certain culture, and then that culture is not there anymore, and seems like the really the importance of having all that, and how far they were from that. And I was 38 years old, and I really thought that it should never happen in Boston, and I decided to go somewhere else because it had been a few years now that we, weren't going anywhere, make struggling to make the playoffs. If we made the playoffs, and then no one, you're not going anywhere, to challenge myself, and that really um, took a piece out of me for quite a while. I was always one that showed up at the rink with an amazing amount of energy and passion, and just had so much fun, and it was really tough. And I decided to, I was 38. I'm like, all right, let's go somewhere that. So I called Harry, and I asked Harry if I'd like to go somewhere to compete again, in the playoffs, and give myself an opportunity to win again. or to win.
Yeah.
We came close a few times there in Boston, had some great runs and all that, but to go somewhere to kind of get in that kind of atmosphere again. So ended up going to Colorado. It was a relief because I was going into such an amazing atmosphere that was so healthy and one that was just striving to win. Pierre Lacroix, every year he was a winner. He just wanted to win and try to put the best team together. And getting to Colorado, it didn't take very long that to know that this was going to be an amazing place and going to be an amazing experience. And that I wasn't only going there for the remainder of that season. I knew that if I could go back there another year, even regardless of what was going to happen this year, the first year I went out there, I was going back for a second year. That at that point in time, when I did decide to go back for that last year, knowing that regardless of what happened that year, it was going to be my last year. But the leadership that they had, the core players, is the best team I've ever played on in terms of pure talent. And having a guy like Patrick and Nets and have an opportunity to play with Adam Fote, Rob Blake, and our defense was stellar, and the forwards were amazing. There's so many Hall of Famers on that team. Peter Forsberg and Joe and Drury and Tanguay and you just go through that lineup and the core guys, that bottom six did an amazing job for us. And it was just so much fun. It was so much fun. We lost in the semis my first year going there, um, in the seventh game to Dallas, but I knew after that I was going back for another shot. And that last year, we won the President's Trophy. Patrick beats the record for most wins by a goalie. Joe wins the Hart, and Joe scores over 50 goals. Milan Haydu scores over 50 goals. We had the best goals against average in the league that year. And I remember Bob Hartley coming in first day of camp. That last year I was there talking about how can we improve and how can we put ourselves in a position to win it all after the experience that we had the previous year. And he just talked about being responsible and paying attention to detail and trying to be, if not the best defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in the league, because we know we could score, but are we ready to defend and to sacrifice and to commit to being a good team away from the puck? And we certainly were that year. So it allowed us to kind of win in the end.
I mean, man, it's remarkable. Like, I'm just going through the roster, and you just rattled off a bunch of names. Like, I mean, no disrespect to the current version of the Avalanche, who are having a phenomenal run. I don't know in the Cap era if we ever see that collection of talent ever again. You mentioned Pierre Lacroix. Like, it would seem easy that when you put a roster like that together, that it just happens naturally. I think anybody that's watched sports enough knows that it can just as easily go the other way. What did what did Pierre Lacroix do in terms of just managing that group to set it up for success?
He had great relationships with, he was a great communicator and just a fun guy to be around because he had the energy, the passion, and he was just like I said, he was a winner. He just wanted to win, and he'd do. You know that he was going to do everything in his power to try to give us the opportunity to win, and just that feeling, knowing that the year I got traded, I come with Dave Andrechuk, on March 6th, and to get that kind of impact at that point in time of the season. And then the next year, Rob Blake comes in, and you're like, wow, I mean, the guy's giving you an opportunity. He's putting you in a position where, all right, guys, I've done my job. Now do yours, more or less. So he was a lot of fun to be around. I love the guy. He gave me an opportunity to live an amazing experience for 15 months in Denver, and I'll ever be grateful. And I knew Pierre before I got there. Seeing him in Montreal in the off seasons and being around him a little bit. So it was great playing there. I never played with so many French guys in my life. Uh, since I had left Montreal, so it was pretty cool. And everybody, even people working for the Avs, they were coming from Quebec, so there's a lot of francophones that were around, so it was pretty funny.
What do you remember about June 7th, 2001? And to set the stage, you guys are down 3-2 to New Jersey. You're playing at the Prudential Center. And, from what I understand, it was a foregone, you were going to retire that year, regardless of the outcome. Um, what do you remember about going to the rink that day?
I remember not being able to sleep much, but you know what? I remember it started after we lost Game 5. And we win the first game, we lose a second, we win Game 3, lose Game 4. We're going back home. We've been an amazing home team. No way we're losing that, and they beat us pretty good that game. And now we're down 3-2, and nobody's given us a chance now to win that next game because we're going against the defending champs and we're playing in their building. So for me, I knew that it could be my last game played. I I really was taking everything in. It was such a cool feeling leaving the practice rink, kind of looking around, saying, I don't know if I'm going to be back here. And then going to New Jersey, same kind of thing, pregame skate, pregame meal, all these things could be my last time doing this.
Yeah.
And if it was going to be my last time, I wanted everybody that was important to me and my wife to be part of that game. So it gets me emotional because my siblings, my wife's siblings, my best friends, my dad, my wife's dad,
They're all
I
there.
they're all in New Jersey.
Wow.
And so then we win the game, and now everybody goes to Colorado now. The same group. I bring them all to Colorado, knowing that this is my last game. So it was living it was just amazing. I remember talking to the team before Game 6, not talking about my last game or whatever, just talking about uh, Ditka, the Bears coach.
Yeah,
There's a
Mike
big
Ditka, yeah.
there's a big dinner. There's a big fundraiser called the Choppers Dinner. The Nuggets, the Rockies, the Avalanche, and the Broncos are all involved in this big, and it goes on in the Pepsi Center on the ice surface. It's full. They raise tons of money, and Ditka is the keynote speaker, and he goes on. He finishes his speech by talking about the man in the mirror. I don't know if you ever heard the poem or whatever, but it's more or less, if you could look at yourself in the mirror going through this whole poem and all that stuff. So I was like, I got to say something to the team, and I just told the guys that if every single one of us could really really look at ourselves, knowing that we left it all out there, and if we could look at ourselves in the mirror after this game, that there's no way we're going to lose this game. And we went out there, and man, Patrick stood on his head for the first 10 minutes.
I'm looking
They
at the
stormed
shots. Yeah,
us.
you guys got shellacked in the first
Yeah.
period.
First 10 minutes. And then
Yeah.
Adam Foote scores from almost the blue line. And from that point on, we take off and win 4-0. And now going home for Game 7 was strictly amazing. And it was a fun trip home because all that Joe wanted to talk about on the plane, he said he just wouldn't leave me alone and ask him, Ray, how are we going to do this? I'm like, what are you talking about, Joe? He says, the cup thing. I'm like, Joe, let's win the friggin' game, and then we'll worry about the cup thing. But that's the guy Joe was. He was such a classy and an amazing player. Um, and he was so much fun to be around and to see him play. It was so much fun to be part of playing with him and Joe and these guys. So, but then it was super cool knowing this is going to be my last game regardless. And then during the game, we've worked with sports psychologists a lot, especially in Boston. I've worked with a guy named Fred Neff, and you talk about staying in the moment, the process, and all that stuff that comes with it. It was so hard to stick with that and to stay in the moment because we were up 3-0 at one point, and I'm sitting on the bench just thinking, man, I'm going to win the cup. and then trying to bring myself back to just shift by shift and all the key things that you think about the process and all that stuff. So it was an amazing feeling. Last few minutes, all you see is my big face on the jumbotron and people going crazy. And I thought I was gonna faint on the ice. I thought I was gonna uh, I had a hard time breathing. I was so excited and so emotional. So and they kept throwing me out there. They wouldn't let me come off the ice. They no, Ray, you stay out there. You got to be out there for the last moment. So it was really cool. And then we have our celebration at the Chop House after the game and all that stuff. And I had a big 15 passenger van that I had for everybody that I was driving around. Some were
Oh,
staying
no
at,
way.
mostly in a hotel, and some were staying at my house. And so at the end, it's around 2 in the morning, and Pierre Lacroix says, "Bring the cup home with you."
Like
So
just you.
yeah, so I have the cup in the van with all my family and friends, and I don't bring anybody anywhere other than my house. I drive back to my house, and I had a big cooler in the van,
Yeah.
and then we turn on my street, and we're beeping the horn, and people are coming out of their houses now, and I put the cup on the sidewalk and the cooler in the street, and we're there till about 5:30 in the morning. So it was pretty cool.
Come on.
Yeah. So that
That's
was my
amazing.
first little touch with the cup.
That is so cool. What did you do with it on the day
So
that you
then,
had
so
it in the
then I
summer?
get a call. My agent gets a call from the mayor's office in Boston, and I got to say that people, knew why I left Boston. They supported me big time. They were so happy and really wishing and hoping that it was going to happen for me. So the mayor calls my agent and he says, "We want to have something for Ray here at City Hall. Can you come back with the cup?" And I really didn't feel comfortable doing that. I told my agent, I don't want to embarrass the Bruins, and I think they wouldn't be too happy with that. So he calls Mike O'Connell, the general manager, and talks to Mike about it. And Mike said, "We don't have a problem doing that." So I ended up doing that. There's like 10,000 people at City Hall that showed up for that day. It was crazy. So that was the second time I had the cup. So I had that for a few nights. And then I had it another time in August. It was like a wedding. I invited like 250 people, and I had it. We had a big party and just an amazing night with it. And then I had it for a couple hours in my hometown in Montreal another time. So
Awesome. And your dad got to enjoy that with you?
yeah, yeah. My dad. I lost my mom a long
Yeah.
time ago, but my stepmother and my dad got to live that with me as well.
That's incredible. I'm just curious. You mentioned Fred, the sports psychologist you worked with, and just in the conversations we have on the show, I've really come to appreciate that. Obviously, a lot of what you accomplished, there's a physical ability that goes along with that, but that ability for human beings to say, like, I don't care what the score was the last game, like I can just put on the blinders and as you said, um, be in the moment. What did maybe Fred share with you, or what tools did you use in your career to stay
Well,
focused?
my mental toughness was probably one of my strengths
Yeah,
and allowing
yeah,
me to have the success. Like I could be out there and they say a quarterback has to have a short memory. I think any athlete has to have a short memory. There'll be a time to look back on what you just when you just messed up or whatever. But the important thing is, do you have the ability to bounce right back and to go out there and not change anything about your thinking and how you're playing the game? And I was able to do that. I played with players that would come off the ice, and one mistake, you'd lose them for a period or for a game or for a week sometimes. But and to their defense, sometimes they didn't see the ice for a period after they messed up. I never had to worry about not seeing the ice because I was going back out there the next shift. So that's definitely an advantage. But there's a reason why I was going out there the next shift because I was who I was and I approached things how I did. And I think working with Fred, and back then that was not very popular.
I
with
was
the
gonna
older
say, yeah.
guys. Oh my God, they were
And
like, "Are you
was this a
afraid of
team thing or
Jimmy?"
something that you sought
This
out
was
yourself?
a team thing.
Yeah.
It was Terry O'Reilly that, and when Taz said something, you didn't go against that.
Yeah, I believe that.
Uh, and he believed in it big time, and he made it mandatory that we go to this meeting. It was like once a week, I think it was, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing, and I was all for it. I supported Fred, and I tell the guys, come on, it's a friggin' hour. It's going to help you if you pay attention. Uh, and it's all about visualize, staying in the moment, how to process, you know, just just all these things that are so important, and not worried about the outcome, worry about the process, you know, and breaking it down and small, short little things to keep you focused and, to visualize and all that kind of stuff to get you ready to kind of be in certain positions on the ice during the game. So I thought it was great. And not only that, but we all deal with personal stuff as well. And having somebody like that around to kind of bounce things off, let it be family or whatever it could be, you have something on your mind, you got to get off. It kind
Yeah.
of really helps you to how to break things down, not only in hockey, but then in life.
One of the previous guests that we've had on the show is Ryan Warsofsky. And I understand that Ryan, he spent a lot of time on your couch in the Bourque rec room, from what I understand,
Yes.
as a
Yeah,
teenager.
him and Dave, they played together with Ryan at Cushion Academy for a few years. An amazing, beautiful family.
Yeah.
Mark and Don, their parents, and their whole family, the four boys, and we got really close to the Warsowskis from our Cushion experience, and I'm very happy for Ryan and Dave now that is coaching, I think, in Charleston in the ECHL. So they were great players. Ryan was really a solid defenseman, really a good defender, would block shots. He could play the point on the power play, but just an amazing teammate, like a glue guy, a leader in the room. Like that's what I take away so much from Ryan. Not surprised on how he's leading a team now and coaching and doing such a great job. And Dave was the just an amazing skater, an amazing player, offensive, really gifted offensively. Uh, Ryan could not skate like Dave, I'll tell you that. But yeah, but you wouldn't see Dave block too many shots, and you'd see Ryan almost being a goalie sometimes. But just that type of, and it was a blast because they became best of friends with my son Ryan, and it's kind of cool to see where they're at now.
Yeah, no, there. I mean, it's I think probably the best stories coming out of the NHL season so far. You weren't just a parent on that team; you were an assistant coach at Cushing, and I think you know, so often today when you mention players make mistakes, all players make mistakes, Hall of Fame players make mistakes, and I think we've come to learn that oftentimes one of the benefits that maybe a player like yourself has is at some point a coach that when they do make a mistake, they give them that opportunity to learn from it versus, parking them in the middle of the bench. Just for all the coaches listening to this, what's sort of your mindset when you were working with young players in terms of how do you help them grow from, a bad turnover or a missed assignment?
It's a game of mistakes, and and that you got to know right out of the gate. You got to learn from your mistakes, but things happen so quick out there that you can't avoid them. For me, it's grabbing somebody coming off the ice after a mistake and picking them up. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, what happened? Right then and there. What happened? Why? Why did it happen? And then you're like, all right, so what do we do next time? And then he's back out there or whatever, and he does something that you've been talking about in a positive way, and you come back to him then, and you're like, That's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about. How long have we talked about this? And bang, that's it. That's it. And picking them up, picking them up all the time. And yeah, there might be a time where the guy might need to be talked to in a different way, but for me, that wasn't my go-to. It's like I'm not going to embarrass you, but I'll talk to you, and I'll make you understand that it's got to be different. You got to do it different, and maybe there's a reason why it's happening a lot of times, and you got to want to learn. But communication is key, and that's so important. But I like fresh. It was a lot of fun. I was taking care of the D, Steve Jacobs and Bill Troy. They would let me run practice when I was there. I try to get there 2 practices a week, and then I try to be there for every game I could make. I was there, other than if I had something that I had to attend. So I was out there. I was there for a lot of games, and driving to Cushing twice a week for practice, and it was great. And it was fun being behind the bench and really being there fresh in their ear, good or bad.
Big tournament coming up in Italy here in a few weeks. You had an opportunity to represent Canada. I believe 3 Canada Cups, 1 Olympic Games in Nagano. What's the key to being successful in that competition?
Coming together quick. You
Yeah,
don't have much time to come together. Um, I hate shootouts because of it.
yeah,
Um, I you know I think shootouts are great during the regular season, but I think the NHL has figured it out where, if it
totally.
comes to the playoffs, it can't be decided by shootout. We're playing the Czechs in a semifinal game, and we play 10 minutes of overtime. Last half of that game, we're all over them. We're trying to tie it up. We finally do. Then we go into overtime, no goals, and then it goes into a shootout, and you lose. You lose an opportunity to play for the gold medal because of a shootout. I can't believe it, but that's how it goes, right? Um, but it was just an amazing experience playing for your country. Nothing like it. Played in 81, 84, 87. 87 being the best hockey I've ever played in. Those 3 games against the Russians were all 3 games were all 6-5 score. Having your country behind you. And then having an opportunity to play in the Olympics, regardless that, I have a very special person that was my high school gym teacher, and he had a track and field team in Montreal, and 4 of his runners went to the Olympics, and he started training me at the age of 16 years old till the day I retired. And he was a middle distance coach for the Canadian Olympic team, and his name is Ben. He told me, Ray, any color medal you come back with is an amazing achievement. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right. It's
Yeah,
going to be gold. It's going to be gold, or silver at the worst. And we come home with nothing. And he was so right. It is so hard to win. I don't care at what level, especially when you got the best on best,
yeah,
uh, or winning a Stanley Cup. But coming together quick, um, and staying healthy. If you could stay healthy during the Olympics, they'll be in great shape. We lost Joe Sakic during that. And I think Joe would have made a difference. Paul Correa didn't even come because of injury.
yeah.
Uh, Mario is out. So I just hope the guys could stay healthy here going in, getting to the Olympics. And once they're there, if they could stay healthy, I think Canada has an amazing chance. But the experience, regardless if we won or not, uh, the village, that experience, Canada House, where all the athletes lived for Team Canada and all sports, that common room at night was an amazing place to spend some time with the other athletes. Just had a blast. It was a special experience, regardless.
Ray, last one for you. If you put on your fan hat for a second, you spent a lot of time in arguably one of the most iconic sports cities anywhere. What's the coolest fan experience you enjoyed during your time in Boston?
Um, Playing in an All-Star game in Boston. in '96, scoring the winning goal in front of the Boston fans and winning MVP was really special. And again, I had, family and friends watching that, being part of that weekend. I remember, the baseball All-Star game at Fenway Park where McGuire. I was there for the home run derby with my two boys,
No way.
and then the game with my wife and my two boys, where McGuire and Sosa was just ripping the ball out of every ballpark, but over the Green Monster like
No
crazy,
kidding.
and having an opportunity to meet Ted Williams uh, during
Wow.
the game was pretty cool.
Yeah.
This was not in Boston, but again, my first year I was retired. We were watching the Patriots with friends of ours, and my son was turning 16. Chris was turning 16 that week or the week later, and they were playing the snowball against the Oakland Raiders, and
Oh, the tuck rule.
my son, yeah, my son said if they win that, can we go to the Super Bowl? It was being played in New Orleans, so we're able to go see that and watch the Patriots win their first Super Bowl.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's
That's
a hat
amazing.
trick right there, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. That's unreal. Um, Ray, when does the three ice season get rolling? When are you back behind the bench?
I think June 11th. I just looking at it today. I think the Wednesday is June 11th, the Wednesday.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that Wednesday it starts, and I'm part of the first week, and it goes through August. So
Awesome. Well, anybody listen, I would encourage you go to the site, check out the highlight reels. As Ray, as you mentioned, it is very much end to end excitement. Thanks so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
pleasure. Good job. Thank you.
So, EJ, where does the seed get planted for three ice?
Yeah, it's interesting. My career has sort of all been a prelude to this, whether it was working at an ad agency for the first several years of my career or selling media for Fox Sports, working at IMG, helping build out the business development group or running fashion weeks, which was a fascinating world. We can get into that if you'd like. Going over to Getty Images and helping them build out some of their fashion content. I built out a division for those guys. And then going out into Hollywood and making television shows for 8 years. It's all kind of been a prelude to this, but at my core, I am a hockey fan and a sports fan and a media guy. And I saw what I think is a fascinating shift to the word I use is snackable leagues coming up. Whether you're talking about rugby sevens, Big Three basketball, Formula E, my favorite is actually the Indian Premier League, which is the short form version of cricket for most Americans or
Yes.
Canadians who are
Yeah.
not that familiar with that sport. But they've got a format called T20. Yeah, you might know it. And they had the World Cup here in the States for the T20 format, and it was wild. I went to it in New York. It was fantastic. But in summary, they created a off-season short version of cricket. Instead of 5 days, it's about 2.5, 3 hours, and it's exploded. It's actually become the version of cricket that most people now follow, which is wild. It's almost like if three ice replaced 5-on-5, which I don't think we'll ever do. I think we're a beautiful supplement to 5-on-5. I'll always be a 5-on-5 fan, but that
Yeah.
that format has been unbelievable for that. So that's all sort of the background. So my career and those snackable sports leagues popping up are really what really made it click.
That's interesting. Well, I had a chance. I was traveling with my family 2 years ago in Australia, and the cricket league was on TV there everywhere, and it was electric. And but also interesting. Australia made a tweak to their rugby league versus union, and just with the goal of speeding up the game, really making it more fan centric, and that's overtaken their traditional form of rugby. How did you go about structuring, because it's effectively a series of tournaments? How do you go about structuring the seasonality of the league?
Yeah, so we're in the off season. So we're June, July, and August. So basically, when the Stanley Cup ends, we kick in. We're an 8-team league here in the States. So the way it works is we have an 8-week regular season, and then our 9th is our championship. It's called the Patrick Cup, named after Craig Patrick and his family. But 4 of our 8 teams will show up at each one of our weeks, and we'll play 4 games, 2 semifinals, a third place game, and a championship game for that night. And because our format is 2 8-minute periods of running clock for a game, the hockey itself, those 4 games, takes about 2 hours and 20 to 25 minutes, the exact same as an NHL game. And then our broadcast is 20 minutes of pregame and 20 minutes of postgame. So it's a perfect 3-hour broadcast, not unlike an NHL game. You get 4 games, 4 different results. And so each of those weeks, 4 of those teams show up, and based on a point system, you get 1 point for winning your first round game, a half point for winning that third place game, and 2 more points for winning that championship game on that week. Total those up over the course of 8 weeks, and the top 4 teams based on that point system then play in the Patrick Cup Championship. So that's a 9-week season. We've actually got a hiatus in there because we're doing the World Cup over in Belfast, but that's how we structure the week of the season, I should say, on a weekly basis.
Got it. And as a fan, does a ticket get me into all the games?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is the event. You're coming to watch 4 games. So it's really a tournament, each tour stop or each event. So yeah, you're there for all 2.5 hours, all 4 games. And it's electric, Aaron. You know, you get 4 results, which is kind of nice in an experience, but you're seeing 6 to 7 goals per game in 16 minutes. And the best thing is it's not gimmicky. And if you extrapolate that out over the course of a 60-minute NHL game, you're talking about 24 or 25 goals in a game. But because it's short format and you're scoring, you know, the games are 3-2 or 3-4, it works. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's 11-5 or something like that. It's just fantastic action, and it is track meet, hair on fire hockey. It is breakaways, 2-on-0s, 2-on-1s. It's great. And the goalies, ironically, end up becoming stars of the equation. We've had 6 guys sign 2-way deals, and
Really?
4 of them were goalies. Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
back in the NHL, one guy, Brendan Halverson's still playing for Tampa. He's on the roster.
That's wild. And so when you started this, what was the process for recruiting the players and where, sort of just from a generality, where are the players coming from? Are they seasoned pros? Are they coming out of college?
Yeah, our first season, we actually had a training camp. We invited about 80 players to Vegas, and we ran 2 simulated tour stops, essentially back to back in 2 days. We had to do that for several reasons. We had to test the rules. We had to do a television rehearsal. CBS was our partner at the time. We had to make sure we tested that. We also wanted to see what kind of talent we had. But for the most part, everything's the exact same from that week. But these guys, we've got 3 player profiles. It's the ex-NHLer. He's probably 32, 33 to about 35 or 36. He is missing the game, wants to just continue playing, but doesn't want to go over to Europe and continue his career there. He's probably got a family. Certainly doesn't want to go into the AHL and play in the minor leagues, but he is excited about playing hockey at a high level. And so that's probably about a third of our league. Next down is the guy that's 26, 27, 28. He's trying to get back into the NHL. He's trying to get his next AHL contract, an invite to camp, or his next contract in Europe. So we got about a dozen or 2 dozen guys that sign deals in the AHL, European leagues. And as I said, we got 6 guys sign 2-way deals back into the NHL. We get a lot of guys that get invited back to camp. And then the third sort of profile is the guy that is the young gun. He's just come out of school. Maybe he's got 1 or 2 years under his belt in the E or the A, but he's looking to make his mark. And these guys are typically the super quick water bugs with great hands, hockey IQ off the charts, speed, creativity, but they're undersized. And they need a showcase to show what they can do. And I point to a guy like Connor Sheary all the time. Connor Sheary broke into the league and was probably destined to only have a cup of coffee, but 3-on-3 happened for him. He could get out there with Sidney and Chris Letang and show what he could really do versus, hey, bud, just get out there, be on the 4th line, stick in the corner, give Sidney Crosby a rest, and eat minutes. He had a showcase for it. That's what we are. And these guys are doing all the best things you want to see in hockey, whether it's Michigans and lacrosse moves or Zorros, but also that tic-tac-toe passing, that 150-foot pass, the breakaways. It's great stuff for these guys to showcase themselves. So those 3 player profiles, depending on where you are in that cycle, they have their different reasons, but about 75% of our league is trying to get another contract or get back into the NHL.
Well, so you've got that motivation to get that next contract, but I was watching some of the clips online, and I'm like, man, like there is a this isn't an all-star game. There's an intensity to the play. And then I read that there's prize money
Yes.
involved, and I'm like,
Yes.
okay, like, and it's real money. So how does that work throughout the season? From, I guess, the in season tournaments, and then obviously the prize for winning the whole thing.
Yeah, it's deadly serious competition. These guys, as I said, for the reasons we just talked about, are taking it very, very seriously. But the prize money is very real. Our top guys will make close to $50,000 in 5 days of skating. So you play your first 4 events, you make it into the championships. The top guys are getting paid nearly 50 grand. That's very real money. If you extrapolate that out or extend that out across what would be a NHL contract for 82 games, you're making 775 grand. It's about $9,000 and change for an NHL league minimum. These guys are coming in at just under $10,000 per game. This is very real money. So they are competing as hard as it gets. And I don't talk about this very much, but Bobby Orr's my godfather, and he came to one of our events. He could not believe how fast it is. You ask any of these players, it is the fastest version of hockey you will ever play. It's 6 skaters and a goalie. You're playing 16 minutes. It is go, 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 go. We do not have face-offs after every goal. So you have to be in great shape. The intensity is real. And the guys are playing for real stakes, whether it's cash or extending their careers. If I'm a 27-year-old guy and I'm getting shortchanged with the NHL, I need this showcase to say, look at my finish, look at my passing, look at my hockey IQ, look at my back checking, look at all the other aspects to my game besides just eating minutes for the top line.
Yeah.
It is a very, very real competition. These guys take it deadly seriously. And we're a no-hit, no-fighting league. It happens all the time. It's guys, the intensity cranks up. The first week is pretty good. Second, third, and fourth week is off the charts.
I bet. And going back to where you started in Vegas with the showcase camp to identify the players, I imagine going into season 4 that the phone's ringing a little bit more. How do you go about? Because there isn't a lot of roster spots available, so you guys have the benefit of being, I would assume, fairly selective. How do you filter, I guess, the inquiries that come in, and how do you settle on the players that are going to eventually play on primetime?
Yeah, it's nice. The phone has been ringing for the last 2 seasons. We've got ex-NHLers calling us now. I'm not going to reveal any until they actually sign their contracts, but we've got guys that you'd be very, very surprised that should be playing this upcoming year. Look, we've got Steve Baker, who played 6 years in the NHL for the Rangers as a goalie. We got Craig Patrick. My father's taken a much less active role in the last 6 months, but in those first 3 years, he was the deputy commissioner. That's kind of our hockey brain trust. I'd probably chime in on 10 to 15% of it, but those guys know what they're looking for. They can see talent. They've done this for their whole lives. So we've got a very good set of eyes and minds evaluating this talent. And then the coaches ultimately are the final curators. They act as both coaches and GMs for this.
How did you, if you are a hockey fan and you just showed up for one of these weekends to maybe rub shoulders with the coaches, we just chatted with Ray Bourque, and obviously that's a thrill.
Sure.
But man, Ken Danico, it is an all-star list. How did you go about identifying and recruiting the coaches?
Yeah, look, it was me, Craig Patrick, Steve Baker sitting around looking at our A-list of gets, to use some Hollywood speak. And they all said yes. Like, I think there was one group, one guy that said he couldn't do it because he's basically a new dad. I won't name names, but it's huge name. But Grant Fuhr was the first phone call. He was absolutely all in. Joey Mullen, all in. John LeClaire, all in. All these guys were on. Brian Trottier coached in the first year and won it. And then he retired. He was out. He's like, I'm good. And now he's still on our board of advisors, and he's fantastic. Yeah. But these guys love it. It's a way for them to compete. It's a way for them to stay relevant in the game in a way that they don't necessarily have the opportunity. John LeClaire, I'm not going to take credit for it, but he coached in 3 ice, got on the coaching staff in Philadelphia. Now, he's earned that from a whole host of reasons, but I like to think 1, 2, 3% of that is due to 3 ice coaching. They love it. They're contributing back to the game. They're mentoring young guys. They're teaching the game in the way that they think it should be played. Different format, but still a lot of tactics from 5-on-5. And they get to compete. I can tell you these guys do not like losing against each other. They take it serious as it can get. Larry Murphy won again. John LeClaire finally broke through, got into the playoffs. John has been burning to get into the playoffs, finally got there and got really close to winning it this year. But they take it incredibly seriously. And last but not least, they have a lot of fun doing it. It's really important. There's a payday there for them, but none of these guys are doing it for that. This is all about the other reasons I just talked through.
I was fascinated. So my assumption was that, it's 3-on-3 hockey. We all see that on TV in the NHL, but there are some very particular rules that you've set up, I think, to enhance the pace of the play, and I think probably make some challenge. I mean, we were talking with Ray about line changes, where unlike what we see in the National Hockey League, where a player can carry the puck back into his zone, allow the other two players to change, you effectively have a half court rule similar to what the NBA imposes. What was the process of, going through and identifying hey, here's some of the levers we might be able to pull to enhance the on ice product?
Yeah, it's all about making the most exciting version of hockey that we can. And Dave Jackson, who's our head of officiating, who your fans will know that he's on ESPN all the time, he helped us sort of dial some of this stuff in here at the end. But we've got a handful of rules, you're right. So we've got basically the equivalent of the NBA's over and back court violation. Yeah. For us, that's a turnover, just like it is in the NBA. It's not a foul or not a penalty. We play the puck live off the netting. If it comes in clean above that netting, we keep playing. We think the NHL should probably borrow that. They love the over and back rule, by the way. Every penalty that we have is a penalty shot. We call it our jailbreak style penalty shot. So puck at center ice, everybody lines up on the blue line. As soon as he strides into it, the game is now live. If the goalie saves it,
no commercial break.
Live.
We're just going.
Yeah, we're going. So it's 2 8-minute periods of running clock. So we are, 8 minutes, 4 minutes of halftime, if you will, and then the next game comes up. We Zamboni after, I think, 2 games. But it is electric. Every goal is we drop the puck at the goalie's feet. We wait about 10, 15 seconds to get a TV replay, make sure the goal was good, and then we go again. The ref blows the whistle, play. The goalie plays the puck. We've got every penalty is a penalty shot, including intentional icing, which gets really interesting. When you're down a goal, pull your goalie, and a guy takes a shot at the empty net from his own zone and misses it. That is, in fact, a penalty shot. And most of the time, guys know that. But every now and then, it ends up backfiring. Guy gets a penalty shot, ties up the game. It's wild. So we've got about 4 or 5 great rules that keep the game going faster, more action. And that rule with the over and back rule doesn't allow the game to be sort of gamed, if you will. You can go back behind your net in the NHL right now, waste time, get fresh legs, maybe even give it to your goalie. And then all of a sudden, you've got 30 seconds of the overtime session that's been eaten. Not what the NHL intended and not what we want to see. Fans want to see action. So we've built a much faster version of the 3-on-3 experience. We love it. Fans love it. And the TV ratings show that out, Aaron. We are doing the same numbers as NHL broadcasts in many cases. During the middle of the week.
Way.
So it's pretty wild.
I'm based in Vancouver, so we're fortunate. We have the rugby sevens that come through, and I went to the tournament. It's first year, and similarly, they've got 7-a-side. There's a lot of room to run out there, and it is like when the game is on, you can't take your eyes off it. And I sense it's similar in your league. But one of the benefits of that format that we discovered is how social it is, because it's a bunch of series of games. There's those breaks. You're able to visit your friends. You start meeting people at the other fans at the stadium, etc. What's the fan experience like at one of your events?
Yeah, I mean, the game itself is obviously super entertaining, but then you've got 4 breaks, if you will, so you can grab a bite to eat. But the opportunity to post stuff from our standpoint, fans can certainly take clips of this. But you've got 4 results. And so one of the things we're bringing online now is betting. So we had to have a track record to get your league onto the sports books. You have to have a little bit of history. So you can't come out of the gate and do that in your first year. So we're going to have betting now. So the pregame betting is all the things that you would think about. Who's going to score first? Who's going to win? Over-unders, all those kinds of things. But what's interesting about our penalty shot format is theoretically we can open up an app and you can go into I'm making this up, FanDuel, BetMGM, whomever, and say, okay, is this guy going to score or not? Theoretically, we could probably get into things that down the road, like does he go 5-hole? Does he go top shelf? Those kinds of things could be interesting. But the fan experience is electric. You get 4 results, 8 halves of hockey. You get to see semifinals, a third place game, which it's really, really matters because those half points end up becoming a huge deal for that 4th place team, 4th and 5th place fighting it out. And then, of course, you got your championship. So you got a result 4 times and then a winner for the overall night. It's a great experience from socialization, entertainment, hockey, and you see things that you would never see in an NHL game. Guys doing things on breakaways, picking pucks up, Michigans, Lacrosses, Zorros, flipping pucks up in the air, batting them in. It is from a social media standpoint, it is a dream scenario. We love it as a league because it is so viral and so shareable. We had a guy score a goal. It was number 1 play on SportsCenter one night, and the guy just went 3 ice, and he saw the goal. He goes, "Yeah, that's number 1 tonight." And it was just like you don't even know what to say to some of this stuff.
That's amazing, and I couldn't help but think I don't know what your relationship is like with the National Hockey League, but I'm assuming it's good based on who's involved with the league. But I mean, what an amazing vehicle to grow the game. Given I know you guys are going to Iowa, you just announced for one of your showcases. What a great opportunity to grow the game and sort of draw people in, and who eventually are hopefully going to become just hockey fans all around.
The NHL has been fantastic. So we have an excellent relationship with them. It was informal for the first 2 years, and then we formalized it last year. They are a marketing partner. They've taken our social media and digital impressions up an order of magnitude, 10x. They're a broadcast partner on the NHL network. We're expanding that relationship. We're going to have those conversations later this year and talk about what that means for 2026 and then 2027 and beyond. But it's been fantastic from that standpoint. So we're very lucky. And you're right. This makes hockey a 12-month play. We are something to talk about in the off season. And look, I love hockey, but the NHL, you're probably only talking about the draft for the first day or two. You're probably talking about the opening of training camp. You're maybe talking about some deadlines that are in the agent world that you guys know about. But we give you a full 12-month play. And we're also getting into brand extensions like 3 Ice Kids and 3 Ice World Cup and an amateur division of this thing, 3 Ice Open. So we're getting into different market segments that you can't necessarily get into. Someday we think we'll be even doing 3 Ice Women. So we're getting into a 12-month play, a faster, more exciting version of it. And then you've also got these brand extensions that are really changing who you're speaking to. So they love it from all those aspects. And so we're looking forward to building this relationship out even further with them.
EJ, for anybody, I think we're speaking to predominantly an audience of coaches who've got access to players. I would say it's twofold. If I'm a coach and I have a player that I think would be a good fit for the league, where do I direct them? But also, if I'm if I've got a family and I want to come and see if one of your events is taking place near me, where can I go and see the schedule and get a feel for how to access it?
Yeah, so our website for 2026 goes live here in a couple of days. So the schedule will be on there, so 3ice.com. We have moved 100% to a single location. We tested it last year with the Florida Panthers in Southern Florida, which was great. And so we've moved everything to Iowa. There's a brand new ECHL facility where the Iowa Heartlanders play. So if you want to come and see us, there's about 5 or 6 cities that are within 2 or 3 hours driving distance. You can certainly hop on a plane, but Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Minneapolis, there's a bunch of cities that you could theoretically come and make a day trip. But, our TV broadcast is everywhere. We're going to be across Canada upcoming this year. So we were on TSN and RDS in our first couple seasons, and we're working on the relationship for a broadcaster. So we're on Wednesday for our first event, June 10th, but we're on Saturday afternoons the rest of the way. So if you want to see some great hockey, tune in and we'll figure out where you're based and what the best television channel is to check us out on. But it is absolutely fantastic. And from a coach's standpoint, look, if you've got guys that are fast as hell, great hands, great hockey IQ, creative, and love this, it's the most fun version they're ever going to play. We're looking for guys that fit that bill. And if they are trying to break through or they need a showcase for this, or They're at the end of their careers and they're like, look, I've played, 200 games in the NHL. I'm 34 years old. I don't want to do the grind anymore. Or the NHL's not asking me back. They said, hey, listen, thanks for playing. You've had a wonderful 5, 6, 7-year career. You don't want to go back in the AHL. You don't want to be riding buses. We're an unbelievable opportunity for you to stay in the game, stay competitive. Perfect example is a guy like Brandon Peary. Brandon Peary, I think, played 250 games in the NHL. And he said, I wanted my kids to come and see me play. And he tore it up. He was unbelievable. He played in our second year, and he was unreal. He was absolutely unreal. Burying goals, league MVP. He was incredible.
Obviously, lots to be proud of through the first 3 seasons. What has been? Can you identify any sort of key highlight that's really stood out to you that you're most proud of?
Standing it up is certainly a colossal effort. Knowing how good the product is fantastic. And then the data coming back, if you will, doing 320,000 eyeballs on a broadcast is incredible. And that's just in the States, and that's just live. Who knows what it's VOD. The NHL relationship, formalizing that, a wonderful feather in our cap. And then on the business side, when you get really smart investors that believe in this, who look at these kinds of things every day and say, you've got something special here. They bet first and foremost on the people behind it. And then, of course, the product. But I'd say those are kind of the highlights. Standing it up, NHL relationship, getting the metrics in that we know we have something excellent, and then moving forward, building something that we think will be incredible. Someday, we think we'll have 3 Ice USA with all those properties, 3 Ice Canada, 3 Ice UK, Germany, Sweden, Finland. There's a opportunity here to have, like the Indian Premier League that's got the Sri Lankan Premier League, South African, Australian. We can have a multi-country platform here, and then have a Champions League for men, women, kids. Think Little League World Series for kids. That's something we're really, really excited about. Setting that up this year and getting what I'll call our minimal viable product up. It's going to be fantastic because we think we will have the Little League World Series of hockey on our hands here.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really excited to see how things go in for your event in Belfast. I was over there for hockey camp last summer. Great city. For anybody that's able to go take it in person, it's going to be the best. E.J., this has been great. Thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck in season 4.
Aaron, my pleasure. Thank you.